The cost of the new 9th edition box set is rumoured to be £120. I think there's some reasonably strong evidence for this. Today we'll discuss that, and then we'll go a bit further and do a little maths and educated guesses to compare its value to Dark Imperium. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel, where we're all about getting the most out of our miniatures on the tabletop. One of the biggest changes with the new 9th edition is going to be that Dark Imperium is sadly going away, and in its place will be a new starter set, and I think we can say with near certainty that it's likely to be this one with the Primaris versus Necrons on the left. If it is indeed £120, it's a little bit more than Dark Imperium, so I was interested in comparing the amounts of models and the likely points cost of the models from the old box to the new box. So today we're going to go out on a bit of a limb and try and compare like for like, and weigh up whether this is an upgrade or downgrade on the Dark Imperium box set. So the reason that people have been saying that this is likely to be £120 is because of a giveaway on the Warhammer community website. I think most other newsy commenters have talked about it already, and someone sent me the link to the terms and conditions of this thing on Discord a few days back, so thank you very much for that. The competition basically goes like this: if you sign up to the Warhammer community newsletter, then you have the chance to win a mystery box prize. Now they do say a mystery box, implying that it's just one box, and the artwork on the left here has a very helpful hint with an assault intercessor staring angrily at a Necron warrior, giving us a bit of a hint what might be in this mystery box, even though that they say in the article what the contents of the box is secret. I feel like if it was already released, then they wouldn't have been so cagey about the contents of it, they'd want to be showing off their cool prize. If you then go to the terms and conditions of the contest, it says that the value of each prize is £120, although it's not redeemable for cash, which is where people are getting the figure of £120 for the potential price of this new box. It also says that their prizes will be released in July 2020, which to me seems like a very reasonable date for the release of 9th edition, giving them the rest of June to release the next couple of Psychic Awakening books, and then maybe late July or early August for 9th. They also say that they won't be informed of the contents of the box until Games Workshop have announced it officially, again implying that it's something that's not out yet. I know this is making a leap of logic, but I honestly think that it sounds very plausible to me, particularly as we have seen the contents of the box, and to me it does seem a little bit more content than the Dark Imperium box had. Plus it's a few years down the line, there's been a bit of inflation, and Games Workshop are charging a little bit more for their releases than they used to a few years back, so it does sound very believable to me. My main concern with it is that it's quite a steep amount for just trying to get into the hobby in the first place, and you are asking a lot for a new player to commit to a game that they don't even necessarily know that they want to play yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see something the equivalent of No Fear, the excellent value box set which mainly focuses on the models, as a smaller version for the Primaris versus the Necrons. There also haven't been any 100% guarantees that we're still going to get the 9th edition rulebook in this box, though I would say that it's probably likely, as it is a decent amount of money, and if they do want it to be a true intro to the hobby, then I think it would still be a very sensible move, as with Dark Imperium. So although we can't be absolutely 100% certain of either of these, if we do run with £120 as being the price point, and the contents being as we've seen in the pictures, it does mean that we can now do a reasonable comparison to the contents of Dark Imperium. First of all, let's look at the number of models in both kits. In the new box set, it looks like we've got the Scorfect Lord, what looks like a Necron Overlord, the new support character with his 2 guards, an Immortal Light Troop Leader, 3 Scorfect Destroyers, a spindly Canoptek construct that has a similar sort of feel to the bloat drone in the Dark Imperium box set, 20 Necron warriors, a bunch of Scarab swarms, although I'm not entirely sure exactly how many. We can see 2 of them clearly in the Necron picture, but if you look over to the Primaris picture, then you can actually see a bunch of Scarab swarms on the bottom left there, slightly hidden behind the lieutenant's head. I'm assuming that these are 2 cuts of the same picture with different artwork rendered on top of them, so I'd estimate that we're getting around about 5 or 6 Scarab swarms, although I admit that's a little bit shaky. On the Primaris side, we get the Captain with Storm Shield, Lieutenant with Storm Shield and Volkite, our new Judiciar, Primaris Chaplain, what I'm going to call a Blade Guard Ancient for the time being, because he's got a standard and the similar white helmet to the Blade Guard Veterans, 3 Gravis with Melter Weapons, the 3 Outrider Bikes, 3 Blade Guard Veterans themselves, and 10 Assault Intercessors. So overall, that's somewhere around 32 to 36 models on the Necron side, and 24 models on the Primaris side. If you compare that to the contents of Dark Imperium, just in terms of raw numbers of models and nothing else, then it does win out. The Primaris side on Dark Imperium had 22 as opposed to 24 in the new set, and the Death Guard size has 31, in comparison to the probable 32 to 36 that we get, depending on exactly how many Scarabs there are. So a little bit more in terms of numbers of models, although not loads, but honestly, just from a raw feel, I do feel that the general size and bulk of the models on both sides are slightly bigger than the Dark Imperium. I think that this is particularly evident on the Necron side, particularly when you're comparing the 20 Necron warriors that you get to the 20 Poxwalkers. The Poxwalkers really are just chaff hordes, they're only 5 points a model, and at present the Necron warriors are 11 points per model. They really are just bigger, more meaningful troops in the game. I'd say the same is true on the Primaris side. You seem to get more characters on their side. The Intercessors are pretty much equivalent, the Bikes and the Inceptors are pretty much equivalent, but then it appears that you get 6 elites, 3 Blade Guard veterans and 3 of the Melta Gravis, compared with the squad of Hellblasters, and to me that seems like another slight direct upgrade. I thought that one helpful way to think about it could be in estimating points, to get a rough sort of feel for the value of the models in the box in-game. From Dark Imperium, the Primaris side is 765 points, and the Death Guard side is only 630. I may have missed a little bit due to the Plague Marines gear, I'm not entirely certain of that. In any case, here are my highly speculative, rough estimates of the points cost for the models that are coming out in the new box set. I certainly wouldn't read too much into these are just roughly where I would feel the models would fit, as more of a thought process to help me clarify their value in my own mind. I put the Scorfect Lord at around 100, as being similar in value to a Destroyer Lord or Gravis Captain. We already know the points cost for Necron Overlords, if that is indeed what he is. I based the robed ghostly character and his 2 guards on the Dark Apostle and his attendants from Chaos Space Marines, and the immortal troop-like leader looks very similar in stature to a Necron Lord, so we went with something around there. I've estimated the Scorfect Destroyers at roughly 30 points as slow-moving but deadly melee specialists, and I put the Spindly Canoptic construct at around about 100, although this one I really do think it could vary a lot either way as to what it does in game. If it really is just a support construct, it could be more sort of Tomb Spider type price, but if it has some deadly weapons and is very hard to kill, it could be looking at more sort of the 130-150 sort of point range. Necron Warriors, we already have their current price, though of course this might change, and Scarab Swarms, we've estimated 4 of them, and use their points from the current codex. For the Space Marines, it's pretty easy to estimate the Captain and Lieutenant, as we already have points cost for those guys, plus the gear that they wield. I've put the Judiciary at around about 70, as I strongly suspect that he's going to be more of a primarily melee fighty character, a bit like the Master of Executions. We put the Ancient as the standard cost for Ancients, and I put the Melta Gravis and the Outriders a bit cheaper than their Aggressor and Inceptor equivalents, just as I feel they're probably going to do a little bit less damage on average, though of course that remains to be seen. Finally, I just used the standard Intercessor cost for the Assault Intercessors. Whether they're going to be a point or 2 cheaper or not isn't the biggest deal. Now I know full well that all of those are highly speculative. We don't even necessarily know how points are going to work in 9th edition, but I just wanted something that would be a semi-reasonable estimate to have a very rough guess at the amount of value in the box, if you are trying to build yourself a full 2000 point army of Necrons or Primaris, for example. So let's put it all together now and try and account for a few years' inflation. Inflation in the UK seems to have been around about 7% since the release of Dark Imperium if you take it cumulatively, meaning that if they were just charging the same cost for Dark Imperium now, I'd expect it to be released at around about just over £100. If we looked on top of this, if we just looked at models in the box and ignored everything else, then they're just under 10% more, again depending on exactly how many Scarabs we think are coming, giving us the estimates that if they valued it at the same amount of Dark Imperium, then they'd charge around £111 for it. If we look at points costs, however, with my very rough estimates, where I'm fully aware that this is a complete ballpark figure, I've got that it to be around 16% more, with around about 1620 points in the new box versus 1395 in Dark Imperium. Again, if we add that over the cost of inflation of £101, that means that if they were valuing this box at exactly the same price as Dark Imperium, then it would be £117. Obviously, all these estimates are assuming that we get the 9th edition rulebook in the box as well, and that all models in the pictures come in the box for that £120. I do remember the previous edition when they had the Dark Vengeance box set for Dark Angels vs Chaos. There were a couple of examples like a unique chaplain that you only got if you pre-ordered the box, I believe. And again, I'm certainly not ruling out that we might see something similar here. So overall, I would conclude that the new box looks like roughly the same value as Dark Imperium when you take into account the inflation and the fact that you seem to get bigger and more impressive models in this box. I'd say that my estimated points cost is probably the better one to look at than pure model for model basis, as you do seem to just get more and bigger models that are more meaningful in this new set, which isn't taken into account in just the pure amount of models one for one. So I guess it's maybe very, very slightly worse value, but not really meaningfully so, perhaps only by a couple of pounds less models per the amount that you pay. I would like to underline though that Dark Imperium is one of the best value sets that Games Workshop sells at the moment. I thought that was a really positive introduction when they brought that in at the start of 8th edition. as in terms of the amount of cool new miniature sculpts that you got for the amount that you paid, it was a really, really good deal. So even if it's something along the same ballpark as that, then it's generally going to be good news. So know that we've gone out on several speculative limbs here. I'm well aware that these are all complete estimates, and any one of a number of factors changing could definitely throw these sort of estimates off. In any case, I have found it fun to have a talk about them though, and I'm sure that we can get round to a bit more of a detailed analysis once we know exactly what the price is, exactly what the contents are, and more specific details on the points cost when the new edition and Necron Codex comes out. If you think there's anything that's massively thrown my estimates off, then please let me know down in the comments below. Do you think that this box set with a slightly higher price represents a better or worse deal than Dark Imperium? Thanks very much for listening to Auspex Tactics. We'll certainly be covering more news as we get it from 9th edition as it comes out, so feel free to check back later or subscribe if you'd like to see more. Finally, I'd just like to mention my Element Games affiliate link, which I have in the description below and helps to support the channel. Basically, if you live in the UK and you are thinking about ordering in any models in the near future, then I'd like to recommend Element Games. They're a good supplier with decent stock. They give you a 10 to 20% discount on Warhammer 40k models, and if you order with them after clicking the affiliate link, then a little bit of money goes towards Auspex Tactics and helps keep the channel going, without costing you any more when you buy. I have a similar thing in the USA and Canada with an Amazon link. Unfortunately, it doesn't tend to have quite as good discounts at all, but in general Amazon does stock the vast majority of Games Workshop's range, so if you were thinking about ordering some model soldiers over the internet, then consider ordering through Amazon after clicking the link. It can just be a way of supporting Auspex Tactics if you were going to make the purchase anyway. I believe the Amazon link works for any Amazon products in general, to be honest, not just Warhammer stuff. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.